Hey everyone, it's Tim with Ghost Towns, Washington, and today we are taking you on a mine adventure to a mine that dates to the early 1900s and was in operation till sometime in the 1920s, and it was primarily a silver mine. As we kind of break out of this little area patch of trees here, we're entering the Basin, which you can see right back here, and this is where the mines sit. We're going to take a look at a couple of the mines out here today and the mill site, and we have a couple other cool artifacts and surprises to share with you. We appreciate you coming along on this trip, and we'll see you a little further down the trail. So we're making our way to our first stop on the trip, and we're headed for the mill site. Kind of making our way down the hill off trail here. We came across the tramway cable, which is right here, and it continues this way. So the mill, what remains of it, is right on the other side of this patch of trees here. So we're just going to continue to scramble down through here. So we scrambled a little ways down the hill. It might be kind of hard to see in the shadow, but right here, this dark, round, looks like possibly it could be a log, is a steel iron pipe that's a water flume that goes upstream here, and it goes all the way down here. So it was probably here to divert water for the Pelton wheel that was here, and we'll get to that as we work our way down. And then way down here you can see some other pieces of equipment and whatnot. So we're going to make our way down there momentarily. But first, we're going to go over to where the actual mill building was. And I'm just going to kind of skirt this little hillside here. So this was a gravity mill, and I'm not exactly sure what tonnage it was. I can definitely look that up. But you can see here a lot of the waste rock. And then down here, we have what remains of some of the timbers from the mill structure. Once I get down here, you'll kind of see, I'll say it when I get closer. I believe this mill was lost to fire, and evidence here would support it. You can see those burned timbers. And I can't remember what year that happened. But again, I'll do some checking in my research materials and notes and put it down below. And all through here we're going to find stuff, parts and pieces from mill equipment. Move around through the brush here. Some of it's harder to see than others just because of all the brush this time of year. But over here it looks like we have a crusher. I believe it is anyway, without getting too close. And see here, I believe this was a jaw crusher and not a compressor, but let me just double check. I should be able to identify this. Yeah, this is definitely a crusher. Just want to make sure I can see the hopper up and underneath here where the material would have been fed. It's a super cool piece of equipment here. A little hard to see with all the growth, but decent size. There's another view of it. So being this was a gravity mill, we had multiple tiers or levels. So we would have had one here, one right down here, then the third and last one down there, which we'll look at momentarily. Here we have different flywheels and whatnot on shafts for probably different pieces of equipment that were belt driven. Here we have a handle of some sort. It's kind of locked in, but you can see it here. And then this gear here. And this piece of equipment, it resembles a rod mill configuration. I used to know, I think, what this was. I'm just not recalling today. So again, I'll have to look it up and just put some information below. But obviously, if you immediately know because you have good knowledge of mining equipment, then put it in the comments, and we'd appreciate that. So kind of the main item that's left here as far as equipment goes as I pass through these trees and bushes here, coming into view, is the ball mill. The ball mill was a mill system where, as it implies by its name, it had steel balls inside, and it would tumble the ore and crush it down. And I think on a couple of our other videos we've described ball mills in detail. And as you can see, there's a lot of other parts and pieces laying around down here, and we'll look at those individually as we kind of move around. And there is the ball mill. I think, if I remember, years ago, and actually there's one right here, you can see these are some of those steel balls that would have been inside this drum, and of course they would have tumbled along with the ore to pulverize it down. And then here is another steel ball, which is considerably larger. And there is the other side of it. So this would have been on some sort of a shaft driven system so it could spin it. And like I said before, you can see there's just so much brush out here. There's all kinds of stuff you can kind of make out, and we'll see if we can look at it, just poking up everywhere out here. Probably a good site to visit in the fall just so you have less brush. A little structure here. I'm not exactly sure what it was for. I'll make it out over here. And then we have some flanges. Generally, it's kind of hard for me to read and look at the camera, but a lot of the times these have years on them. They have patent dates. I believe this one says 1907. I'm going to step down here before we go to the other side and just see if I can make out anything that's out here in the brush. Let's see, we got something here. Looks like some sort of a large wheel. It's just some sort of belt-driven wheel. And again, there's probably a lot more, out in this vicinity that's just hard to see right now this side of the year. First I thought maybe it's part of an old drill, but I don't think it is. Really hard to see in the brush, so I apologize. I'm trying to clear it off or make it as visible as I can. Another wheel belt-driven system here. Get back up to where the ball mill is. And then this right here was a Pelton wheel. And it had something to do with this water flume right here that was coming down. So the water flume obviously would have connected into the nozzle that would have fired the Pelton wheel under pressure of the water. And you can see the cups for the wheel would have been mounted here. And I know many years ago I've seen photos of this, and the cups were still here, and at some point over the last, 30, 35, 40 years, the cups were taken off the wheel. And that's always kind of crappy to see, but it does happen. And then we have some more of the pipes and whatnot that would have, and valves for the flume here. You can kind of get a better view of the flume right here, because this would have ran all the way from up top, coming down here, up on the creek. And over here looks like we have the remains of an ore car. So we've got its wheels right here and axles. And I think these ones actually do have some sort of maker information on them, so I'm going to look at that. So I can definitely make out Tacoma, I believe, right there. And I'll look at a couple of these others to see if I can get a more clear view. And then here's part of the ore car. You can see the axles right here. And you can see here, which is kind of cool, this would have been the gate right here. You can see kind of how it goes down and under, and it would have rotated up and down. kind of marking right there. I'm not sure if that's a maker's mark. And then we have the other set of ore car wheels here. And there's forest right there next to the ball mill to give you some scale perspective. Alright, so this is the majority of what's here at the mill site. So we're going to make our way a little further up into the basin and take a look at where the camp was, and then make our way out from there to the mines and one other really cool artifact that we want to share with you. Came up on this old bridge. And you can definitely see it's worse for wear, not long for this world. Now we're in the vicinity of where the mining camp was. We're not too far away. And there's some additional equipment here. And over here, we have some pieces of what looks like aircraft. And it's a bit of a mystery as to why this is here. It's said that maybe there was a plane crash here, but when I looked years ago at all the crash records, I couldn't find anything for this area that was listed. So if anybody knows anything about this, that would be great to have in the comments. You can see the rivets and all this aluminum here. And then right over here, as we kind of head up the trail to the area where the actual camp was, you can see there's some wood water pipe here running underneath the trail here. This whole flat area up here, a lot of this was where the mining camp was. There are some artifacts here and there laying about. And this area is used for backcountry hiking and camping. So there are some backcountry campsites in this area as well. You can see people have taken some of the old mining equipment and maybe tried to pass the time camping or utilized it. This looks like it was part of a sawmill. You can see all the measurements on there. And I've seen these at other sites that had sawmill equipment. And then more parts to what I believe is an aircraft. And then here we just kind of have a whole mix of items from the mining operation, cable and this drum over here. And this obviously looks like it's part of the aircraft as well. So along the way we thought we would stop and show you. It is definitely huckleberry season here in Washington. And you can see all these bushes up here getting pretty loaded. Came across this along our way. Looks like a bunch of air pipe that was left out here that somebody turned into a bridge in a couple of spots. And then there's, you can see a bunch of it here all in the creek. Go up here real quick and take a look at it. There's a bunch all through here, and you can see one is actually being repurposed right there. It's got water running out of it. We got a bunch of air pipe that was utilized for bridges, and you can see over here that somebody had kind of made a camping spot. Here we have, like I said, a modern camp with some relics incorporated, like part of an old stove. Maybe a cabin site was out here or they hauled it from the main camp. And then again, some more relics. So we're getting a little closer to the mines. I'm going to step out here on this talus slope, and if you look right kind of dead center there, you can see the waste dump. You can just make them out. And then over here, you have part of what was the tramway. You can see this cable right here. And you can see it runs all the way up, going up there. And for those of you who aren't familiar with this site or haven't recognized it, and where this cable ends up top is probably one of my favorite artifacts of all the mines we explore. And you definitely want to stick around for the rest of this video to see that. So we're going to make our way across this talus slope and get up here and share what I consider to be a really rare artifact for mines, but also just something really rare to find out here in Washington when we explore in general. Here's the first view of that artifact I mentioned a minute ago, which is a steam donkey, normally used, in the logging industry, but in this case it was brought up here for the mines, and we just don't see this very often. So really cool artifact. So we'll get closer here and share that with you. And if you know your steam donkeys, the first thing you're going to notice is this thing isn't oriented correctly because it's tipped over. So normally the tank would be standing up vertically and the winches would be horizontal. And at some point, what we think happened is up here somewhere, there's a skid that looks like it was the skid for this donkey, and it may have just through time and weather and snow rotted off the skid, tipped over and slid to this point where it sits today. And you can see all the tubes there. And the two winches up there still have their cable spooled. And I think there are some markings on this. I'm not sure if they're for the whole unit or just for some of the components here, but it's the Ash Iron Works company. And I'll definitely do some homework on that. Some sort of a patent. It doesn't say the year though, but a patent applied for. And there's an overall view for us right there. Kind of give you an idea of the size of this thing. But it is very cool. And like I said, it's just rare. I mean, I know people find these occasionally associated with logging in certain areas, but I have personally not run across any in the wild. This is the only one, and to have it associated with the mine site is even more unique. So looking up the hill here, you can see waste dumps here, and then just right over there. And those are the mines on this side of the basin. And then this here, if I remember correctly, I believe the skid for this was right here. And this is what the steam donkey sat on. So there was a log here, and then I think one over here, and it's just very deteriorated, as you can see. So it's hard to tell this was anything. And here's a view of that skid for the steam donkey from above. Looking down, there's the donkey down there, but it would have most likely been mounted right here. And then at some point, as this deteriorated, it just tipped off and rolled on its back and sits where it does now. The view here, looking back down and across the basin. So just up the hill from the steam donkey, there's all this wood that's cut and stacked right here. And our best guess is that this was all done and stored here to feed the steam donkey. It's kind of cool that, again, all this split and cut wood has just been sitting here for, at least 100 years. And some of it's spilled off the stack down the hill here. So we're about halfway up to the first mine on this side, and down in there, I believe I'm pointing correctly, you can see the steam donkey where we came from. Right up here where you see that kind of brownish tan rock is the bottom of the waste dump where we're headed. So we're at the bottom of the waste dump, so we thought we'd just stop for a moment and kind of look around at some of the rock that's here. And here you can see some of the material here with this vein and layer. I don't know if it's pyrite, it's hard to tell in there. And you can see kind of in the light, this one. But this is the material that was coming out of the mine up there. We're just gonna scramble up here, and maybe actually we might even just go this way. It's a little flatter, and if we see any ore samples, we'll share them with you, but we're going to turn the camera off while we kind of do this rock scramble. So we made it to the top of the waste dump, looking down here, and here is the first mine entrance. And these adits out here, these mines, like a lot of mines I've mentioned in other videos, just were not that profitable, and they didn't last that long, so they weren't particularly large. And we got a little bit of mucky water here, but it's not too bad. Explosives box here. You can see where it says high explosives dangerous rather. And it looks like maybe a manufacturer or something or another there. Or it just says powder something. That's cool that it still has its writing on it. You don't see that very often. It's very wide as far as mine tunnels go, but it's just got some low points in it. And here you can see some mineralized areas, some copper and whatnot showing through there. It looks like the vein. Got some more of this blue and green showing. Up in here as well. Looks like there's quite a bit. See how far this thing goes. This one seems a little bigger than I thought it was, but that's a good thing. Kind of looking at some of the veins here. You can see there's a lot of copper staining, copper wash. Looks like we go two directions here. So we're going to go forward first, and then we'll come back. And then more this mineralized area, which seems to be getting more intense as we get back in here. And we got a little bit up in here, this vein. And as well as overhead here, you can see that vein very clearly. I believe, looks like we're coming up on the face of it now. Yeah, this is definitely the end of the road here. Yeah, looks like there was some carbide graffiti in here, but looks like it got messed up at some point. Alright, so I turned the camera off, kind of walking back down from the face wall there, and now we're coming where the tunnel went to the left, and we're going to go check that out. And it looks like they kind of opened this area up. Quite large, and maybe a backfill over there. That's my guess, but we're going to take a look. And you can see there's some carbide graffiti, and I can't quite make out what that is. So let's go over here. And we'll go up here too. Maybe. Alright. Interesting. So they did backfill it, but it looks like it faces right there either way. Huh. Interesting. Okay. Well, maybe there was more backfill here and someone just removed some of it. I don't know. But it definitely doesn't go anywhere, so I guess that's good. And we're not missing out on anything there. What this little chamber looks like. And in here you can see another vein going up and through here. Kind of carrying up and through here. And then it looks like it continued to that backfill area right there. So I give you a view of this vein and a lot of sparkling coming off of it. Maybe it shows on camera, maybe it doesn't. But you can see the minerals going on in there. All right, now we're gonna start making our way back towards the entrance of this one. And then we're gonna find our way over and jump over to the adit. It's right next to this one. See if we can side hill it over on what we got to do. And then some more carbide markings of some kind. And coming from this angle, you can kind of get a better view here of all the minerals going on up there. So we're looking back at the waste dump of the mine that we just came out of and making our way across to the second adit, and came across this wheel here and also the cable. So this is, you know, doesn't take much to figure out. This is all part of the tramway system. So we were looking at that wheel just up here when we were coming down, and we could now see that this was a tramway station, the upper station for this mine. And it looks like, I don't know if this is some sort of exactly what this is here, like for a shaft to be affixed to. But what's really cool over here is you can see like where this lever would have been, and you can see the lever has snapped off right here, and there would have been a handle up here. Then here you have these teeth, right? So maybe this was part of the braking system or the release system for the cable. And next we're going to see if we can skirt across through this band of trees and make our way over to this second adit. So we made our way just from over here where the other adit was, kind of down and across all this brush, and now we're at the adjacent adit. And one of the cool features of this adit is this ore car that's right in the entrance here. See, we got a little bit of water here, maybe 6 inches deep right at the entrance, maybe a little deeper. Alright, so I'm going to kind of make my way past this for a second, get out of this water. And then we have a drill stand here for a pneumatic drill. You can see right there, and then we have a piece of drill steel right here next to it. And you can see that you can see here where the drill steel, this part, but it went into the drill, and then this one in particular doesn't have much of a head on it anymore. Release there, lever for the ore car to tilt forward. Super awesome. We'll look at that more as we come back out. And you can see all this airline. And it looks like this mine had strap rail. You can see the wood. And then you can see where the straps kind of just broke off over the years. A little bit of graffiti. It's like May of 47. It's like Merit. Much cleaner mine than the last one. There's not much ground fall in here. Let's see. This piece of shoring, this wood that they put across the tunnel to hold this, it looks like some sort of airline or something that they had kind of lashed to it to go up and over. Some more carbide graffiti. And this is one you've probably seen in some of our other videos. Rabigo makes numerous appearances in mines in this area. Looks like it was just maybe backfilled and just a little notch they made. There's nothing really back in there. Got some more water here. Try to use these timbers to get across. Alright, what do we got going on here? More carbide. It's like some marking of the feet, 265 feet. Got an air receiver tank here, it looks like. Looks like this guy's been in here a long time. Area, maybe they were starting to do a little bit of stoping here. And we turn the corner and looks like we face out. So Forrest is doing some filming down here. I'm going to shut the camera off for a minute, pick it up on the other side. So we're back to the entrance here where the ore car is, and see if we can give you another look at this before we move on. One look at the waste dump for the one we just came out of, which is right here. We'll say one thing about a lot of these areas we explore in is the views are priceless. I mean, they are spectacular areas. So we have reached our third and final mine of the day, and you can see Forest out here. So we're gonna have to climb this talus slope, and we're headed up in this area up here. It's gonna take us a minute to get up there, so we will turn the camera off and we'll see you when we get to the mine. So we reached the top here, headed to this third mine, and the first thing we came up on is a upper tramway station. So we have a couple of the winches here for the tramway, and you can see one still spooled with cable, and they had the foot pedals here, which still seem to go up and down. At least one of them does. And the drum on this one you can still see has wooden slats on it right here, which is really cool that any of that survived.
Oh, that's cool. You can see the cable marks in it.
Yeah,
so.
you can see the Yeah, the imprint of the cable there, the bite. And then over here we have, it looks to me, what's a slusher bucket sitting over here. So I'm going to cross over this. And here's the other side of it. You can see what remains of the chain here. But really cool. So the cable, this goes all the way down the talus slope, and we followed it up to this. All right, so over here, we have the main reason we came up here. And we have the adit right here. The first thing, before we go in, you can see here, there's a winze right across the entrance. And that has definitely opened up quite a bit more from when I was last here, in terms of the boards that went across are missing. Carefully make my way across this winze, which doesn't look, wow, that board's garbage, just FYI.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How's the log?
I don't know if I can trust it. Don't, just step across it. Don't use the middle.
I didn't plan on it.
Yeah. All right, so here's our winze at the entrance. It looks like it goes down at an angle to the left, facing out. All right, so here we go. So the first thing and the coolest feature here is we have this winze with the windlass still intact here. And you just don't see stuff like that very often with the windlass still here. And you can see the ladder going down in there, and the water's just not very clear regardless of, I can stick my light down in there, but it's still just kind of cloudy in general. So kind of hard to see down in there. But yeah, this is really cool. And there's the windlass there. And for those of you who don't know, and I think a lot of you that watch this channel know a lot about mining history and whatnot, but a winze, is a vertical shaft. I'm not sure the depth of this one. And a windlass is basically a pulley system and kind of with a crank handle that you'd be able to use to put buckets or some other apparatus down in the shaft, so you could lower down the tools or bring up ore. That's essentially what a windlass does. It's rare that you see windlasses, at least from our perspective, still in place. We found remnants of them and bits and pieces, but not very many still intact, so really cool to see this. And you can see the tunnel here. It opens up pretty good. It gets pretty tall here. It's probably 10 to, 12 foot to the ceiling here. And here's one of those things that, we talk about mine safety and things. And man, if you look at this is not going to take much for this to shear off. And you can see the ground fall here that's already occurred. So definitely not going to make a lot of noise or vibration through here. And you can see the ground fall here, where probably it looked similar right here where my light is to back there, and this is all just sheared off. So most of that material on the higher side is gone. That was kind of scaling. So we're just gonna step past this. And then the tunnel gets a little low back here. And interesting. It's hard to tell, but it almost looks like a face right there in carbide. It's got a really interesting echo in here. So we're gonna get through the slow area, and you can see here where they were stoping up, and you can see the veins up in here. They kind of run along the entire ceiling here of the stoped area. And this is probably at least 20 feet up that they stoped. You can see some of that stole shoring they used. Obviously, you saw back there how that material was shearing off, like right here, where this kind of granular material meets this more solid rock. So obviously they put this in here to try to prevent that. And then here's some more ground fall from that material shearing off. It's strap rail on this side too. Here we have a big vein mineralized area right here. It stoked up a little bit, and then you can see where they were kind of following it through here. Runs along the center here for a minute. And here's some carbide writing. Unfortunately, it's not legible any longer. It's like a little area for storage. And it looks like we're coming to the back wall here and facing out. Just take a quick look. You can see this material is just really, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a sandy granular material. Kind of see it through here too. It's kind of layered between some of the harder rock. Over here, you can see where the vein came down. This is what they were following all the way in. And go in the other direction. Just like I said, sometimes you can see features or some of the veins and minerals you normally miss coming the other way. We're back at the winds and windlass. We'll take one last look at that. And it's super awesome. And there you can see the cable. And then the structure here that they built to support it, so it could carry load. And we are back at the entrance where we have another winds that we came across on the way in. All right, well, safely executed. Well, that about does it for this mine exploration adventure. We want to say thanks for coming along with us. We appreciate you following us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to our channel. Please leave us a comment and don't forget to like and ring the bell. Until our next adventure, take care.